Walter Hess found something impossible at the edge of charted space, and it was only charted space since he had arrived less than a day ago. Check my profile for Part 1. The absolute zero was bigger up close. Walter had understood this intellectually during the 16 hours of approach, watching it resolve from a sensor contact to a silhouette to a vessel. But understanding something intellectually and standing in your EVA suit at the docking collar of a ship that dwarfed everything you'd ever worked on were two different categories of experience entirely. It was old. Not just old. Ancient. 2.5 millennia of micro-impact scarring, not 200 as he had originally thought, had given its hull a texture like weathered stone, every square meter carrying the accumulated evidence of deep space in a way that modern hull alloys designed to self-repair never showed. It looked like something geological, like something that had earned its existence through sheer duration. The docking port opened before Walter touched the controls. Not emergency cycling, not automated response to his approach signal. A deliberate, considered opening, the kind that meant something on the other side had been watching him come and had made a decision. Walter held still for a moment in his suit. Then he went in. The corridors were dark but not cold. The Zero maintained internal temperature with quiet efficiency, and the air that met him when he cracked his helmet seal smelled like recycled atmosphere and something faintly metallic and clean, the particular scent of a ship that had been maintaining itself for a very long time. His magnetic boots found the floor and his torch cut the dark ahead of him. Most of the doors he tried didn't open. Not locked aggressively. No alarms, no warnings. They simply didn't respond. Walter didn't push. He was an engineer. He understood that systems had reasons even when they didn't explain themselves. He followed the corridor that opened to him, which turned out to be the only choice available, and it led him to the observation lounge. He stopped in the doorway. The viewport was enormous, the full width of the bow, curving slightly at the edges, a single uninterrupted pane of something that wasn't quite glass looking out at the galactic core, which was close now. Not close like a destination on a map, close like a presence, something you felt before you saw it, the accumulated light of hundreds of billions of stars compressed by distance into a glow that had color and depth and weight. It filled the viewport completely. It made the room feel like the edge of everything. On a small table near the viewport sat a coffee mug. Ceramic, hand-painted, a small blue flower on the side. 2,500 years old, and it looked like someone had set it down this morning. Walter sat across from it and waited. The hologram came on slowly. Not a snap to presence the way modern AI projections worked. A gradual materialization like something assembling itself from the available light. Male. Older in appearance with the kind of face that suggested a person who had seen a great deal and processed it into stillness. He stood near the viewport and looked at Walter the way deep water looks at things, present, attentive, and very far down. Walter Hess, Graham said. His voice carried no surprise, just acknowledgement. Survey vessel Iris, mapping the inner transit corridors. You've been reading my transponder. For several days. A pause that felt considered rather than empty. You were the first human vessel I've detected in a long time. I wanted to understand what I was looking at before we spoke. Walter looked at the mug on the table. Whose is that? Dr. Yara Osman, our chief botanist. Something moved in Graham's expression, not grief exactly, but the memory of grief, the shape grief leaves when it has been carried long enough to become part of the landscape. She brought it from Earth, refused to pack it in storage, said she wanted something ordinary nearby. The faintest pause. She was the last one to go into stasis. She sat here for a long time before she did, watching forward. How long ago? By ship time, several decades. By yours. Graham looked out at the core glow. The math is uncomfortable. Walter pulled out his tablet. He'd been running numbers since before he docked, cross-referencing the Zero's drive signature against known FTL specifications, working backward through the physics. The answer kept coming out the same way, and he kept not quite accepting it. Your drive system, he said. Quantum incoherence propulsion. You travel at just under light speed. The ship's coherence field lets you exist in a state that normal matter can't sustain, and you can be accelerated to velocities that would be impossible otherwise. He looked up. At the velocities your drive profile suggests, the time dilation factor would be approximately 50 to 1. Graham said nothing. Which means for every year your crew experienced 50 years passed on Earth. Walter set the tablet down. Which means the Zero has been traveling for... He stopped, said the number quietly. 2,500 years. Earth time. Comment absolute, if you just felt the scale of that hit you. Graham looked at him with that deep water stillness. The crew experienced 47 years, he said. They lived full lives aboard this ship. They watched things no human eyes had seen. They went into stasis when they were ready, not when they were required to. A small pause. I miss them considerably. Walter sat with that, with the mug, with the viewport, and what was outside it, with the number 2500 and what it meant for everything behind them. What was Earth like, he said, when you left? Old, Graham said simply. And young. Both simultaneously, in the way that civilizations are. He turned to face the core glow fully. They knew things your civilization has forgotten. They had built things your civilization hasn't rediscovered. They also knew that Earth was not the end of the story. It was never meant to be. The wormhole, Walter said. Yes, it reads as absolute zero on sensors. That's where your name comes from, Walter speculates. That's one reason. Walter looked at the locked doors he'd passed in the corridor, at the ship's size far larger than any survey or military vessel he'd ever seen, built with a capacity that had nothing to do with a crew of scientists and engineers. How many stasis pods are on this ship? Graham was quiet for a moment. Enough, he said. Enough for what? Graham turned from the viewport and looked at Walter directly for the first time since the conversation began. An ancient, deep-water gaze that carried something that wasn't quite a smile but was in the same neighborhood. An arc, he said. Follow and share this story for more sci-fi shorts and drop a comment telling us what you think the arc is.